straight diamond in the rough, and you're mad that they're not trading him for something else. What?
Man,
this is why we can't have nice things.
Maybe this is the reason for, honestly, probably the Detroit sports tax. It's not the cold, because look, Chicago's cold, New York is cold. Maybe it's this fan speak, this type of fan ideology, that is the reason for the Detroit tax and free agency.
But why do you? Are you going to get addition by subtraction? Are you going to get a lottery pick for Bojan that makes this worth it?
Not at this stage. I mean, if it does, then awesome. You know, Troy Weaver would be the one to find it out. But just like with the Jeremy Grant situation, if they were to trade him, and I know we said this last year, if they were to trade him, you really only want it to be for a pick that hey, that's the player that I want to get. Like if it's another Jalen Duren situation or Sadiq Bey or Isaiah Stewart situation where people have fallen down the NBA draft board, but they were high above yours, then of course you make a sacrifice. Trading Jeremy Grant was a necessary sacrifice. We get that. But under these circumstances, of just, hey, let's just trade him for something because I like making trades. In 2K, that's where that lives. Just trade everybody, reload, come back, win a championship again.
Bars. I know you're recording this. This is recording, right?
Yeah.
Bars. Just start dropping bars from the very beginning. All right.
That's what it was. Let me get into the intro.
Just bars. Let's start dropping bars at the very beginning. The intro bar.
Oh man. What up, though, people? It is your boy Brandon Dent, aka Detroit Kool-Aid. And look, Jeff Freddy, Mr. Everything, is on the Morning Woodward show. I'm gonna be going out there later to get some content in with him. But obviously, man, look, it's the Woodward Pistons podcast, and you guys already know how we start, especially when we got the legend on. So I'm gonna still do this drum roll. Hey, yo, shout out to the legend, Detroit News, Rod Beard. And you guys already know we were rapping. I didn't even get a chance to ask him this yet. How are you doing today? We just got into it.
It's just one of the days where it's just, as soon as you get in, it's just it's just uppercuts and
oh man.
I mean, because at least we didn't start this one with so I got some reader comments, and this is what I got from readers today. At least it's not that.
No. I feel like this season is one where, even though it looks like this team is taking a step back, it's necessary. It's going to be a 2 steps forward process. And, that's what some of these topics that I want to kind of run through today, that's what they kind of delve on. There's a lot that people see that's gone wrong, but what have you seen that's actually gone right? What are you seeing that's actually leading credence into some of the views that we hold, some of the views that we now know without a shadow of a doubt that the organization holds? And we started off with Bojan Bogdanovic and some of the comments that he was making. Well, we haven't even gotten to his comments yet, but I want to kind of start there because I think that this sets the tone for everything else. And Bojan effectively was in a conversation with HoopsHype. Are you familiar with the conversation?
Yeah.
Yep. Of course. I have to ask for formalities.
No. That's the right thing to do. That's the right thing to do.
He stated this, and this is the thing that really caught me. A lot of people say, well, Bojan said this. No, the thing that caught me more than any statement of we're going to be great next year. Hey, we've had some great development of our young guys and Killian Hayes. Hey, Cade Cunningham is the straw that stirs the drink. He started with the team, the owners, Troy. This is not something that Bojan is just, hey, this is something that I've heard, this is what he's being told as a guy who realistically coming to the end of his career has to ask himself, do I want to chase a ring, or is this a rebuild that I want to be in for a long haul, or is this something where we're going to be competitive soon? And so when you get that type of conversation, that type of directly from the organization, I think that is powerful because it's speaking directly to what they believe they should have.
Yeah.
And we talked about the fact that we believe the injuries to a lot of the players on the team really shuddered where they believe they could be. That Cade Cunningham, more than any of these other injuries, was going to have like a star-like effect. Like if you lost a star from a team, that would absolutely crater things. We used to see the old LeBron James Cleveland Cavaliers, and I'm not saying that Cade is a LeBron James, but we understand the effects that he used to have before he was that LeBron, before he was the guy that we saw. See, today, when he was not there, those Cleveland teams were atrocious, man. It didn't matter who they had on the squad. I used to joke with people, man, be like, yo, but he had all-stars, the Jonas Ogaskis on there. And it was like, bro, stop. All-star Mo Williams on there. But you get the point. You get the point. And so when he started there, I don't know, it lended a lot of credence, because obviously what perked up a lot of people's ears is the twofold statement. Hey, Troy told me we are going to be great next year. Mentioned cap space as well. What I just want just your thoughts on it. Just how did you unload all of the Bojan stuff before we get into some more of what has gone right and where does that lead us into next season?
So let's start with this. Just because they had this conversation doesn't mean he still won't be traded. It's just at this particular juncture, this is what the conversation was. And you're right. To get into that level of conversation, they could have very easily said, just, yeah, we'll let you know. We'll call you back when we know something. And that wasn't what happened. It was, hey, let's have a heart to heart. Let's sit down and tell you where we are. And that says something about the Pistons front office, that they're willing to do that. But it also says, hey, Bojan wants to know what the deal is. Am I going somewhere else? Am I on the trade block? And he may still be. Let's underline that he may still be, but we plan on having you as a long-term piece in this reconstruction. So what stood out to me was that, hey, it's not this, it's a fire sale. We're going to trade you for whatever we can get. They understand where he fits in this rebuild. And you need a vet like that who is a bucket. Bro.
Absolute bucket, like confident bucket. Not one of those guys who just gets his. I mean, one of those guys that can absolutely really take over the game. You know, there are buckets who they have to be past the ball. They have to come off screens. They have to this. I mean, nah, he's like, yo, give me the ball. Like, what are y'all doing out here? I got this thing. Like, that's what I love about his persona when he's out there on the court, man. And it's just like he's not. A lot of people they look at him as one-dimensional because the defense may be lacking, and I think that that's the wrong way to look at it. When you have offensive players who are multifaceted, you see his scoring, his assists, and other aspects of his offensive game, like free throws and such. Those things are rising or at career highs, or have been at career highs at some point in time this season, showing that as he's being put in better situations to really create, he's proving that there was another layer to his game that a lot of people missed. And where we see it really benefiting right now, though we're not going to see it a lot in wins and losses, is in the fact that has anyone complained about the fact that he and Saddiq Bey have been playing together really well? You know, like, remember earlier in the season, it was that they couldn't play together. They had to be separated. Saddiq Bey had to have his usage high. Somebody figured something out, man. Like, they figured something out. If he can play make, more than just be an auxiliary to Cade, which is what he was brought in to do, people forget that we have to reshape and repurpose our team so we don't get run off the court and look like nothing's happening. Well, when they repurposed that, they started putting people kind of in this ISO role, and they put their catch and shoot players in those roles, you know, with the added benefit that Saddiq Bey can now also play inside. So if the shoot is not there, Casey said, I don't even want you dribbling. Bro, if you're going to dribble, go to the rack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's been an awesome experience to kind of see as he's been put in situations that maybe he hasn't been put in before. You know, Bojan and Saddiq, these guys are blossoming and they're starting to work, and it's really, really, really starting to lend credence to what's supposed to happen next year when they have this cap space, when they have this draft capital. And I'm glad you mentioned it. We said it last year, you know, with Jeremy Grant coming into that deadline. Hey, look, you know, we know how much Troy Weaver likes and Jeremy Grant, and I use that word rather than love because I'm not going to apply the personal. But if you know the history, you could probably apply certain aspects of they have a relationship there. And we know what the plan was coming in. And so if we want to look at last year, yes, there's a high possibility Bojan could be traded. He's highly coveted. Some contender may say, you know what, we absolutely need to have him on our squad. Here's the price that you've asked for, and Troy Weaver has been known to get what he wants. So yeah, Bojan is one of those pieces that I hope become a recurring theme under Troy Weaver, just like Jeremy Grant. They're going to serve this team greatly if they're here or if they're a part of a trade package. And that's what I think is the most awesome thing about Bojan Bogdanovic and the connection to Troy Weaver as a GM is that these when these players are brought in, and I remember when the Jeremy Grant money was given, how many people were like, you know what I mean? Like, what are you doing, Troy? And then Bojan, he just brought him right in and did it again. Like, wait a second. Is this like a plan? This is like, oh, you have, you know what I mean? There's something to this, and it's playing so beautifully into it. So if he wants to keep it or play the musical chairs and trade it, just depending on where the restoration is, right? Where that window is, it's a beautiful thing. But
let me say this too. The thing that you can't really gauge this season is because it's Cade who's out. If it was anybody, literally anybody else on this roster, then you'd have a better sense of what's going on and who's going to stay and who's going to go and what this could look like. Because it's Cade, it's just everything. It's the whole engine of this rebuild that you can't really take very much from this season at all. And you're just going to have to put people in different things and say, okay, Duran, cool. Ivy, cool. In a vacuum, but you can't say this is how it looks with Cade, and that is the worst part of this whole thing.
Yep. And you know what, man? I was over here getting excited because we were talking about like, man, look, they put Killian in this Cade role. Well, we thought it was for his development. What if it was because of the statements Bojan stated? Everything was centered around Cade. All of our offense. So yes, we need to make sure we have a little bit more to our offense. We need to have some more variety to it. But if you want to be able to get yourself into a better spot offensively, remember, they started off the year bad on offense. The offense and the defense were badly ranked. If you look at their offensive rating right now, they're a much better team. And when you look at when that change happened, it was when they kind of started putting people into that Cade Cunningham role. They even got Ivy in that same type of role. And he's doing what? Hitting that mid-range even more. Like we've talked about all year, like, can he get this? And when they moved Killian into that role, it is obviously he didn't have, and we've talked about it. It was amazing that we talked about like, he didn't have the Cade Cunningham full effect, but we could see that this helped their offense through. So you're right, man. With Cade, I think that it preaches more so to who he is as a player, the level of, because we're always looking at wins and losses. That's where a lot of fans' minds are at right now. They're looking at, we can't be nobody right now. And I'm like, guys, there's so much missing here. That's why I love pulling out that post All-Star break, those stats last year. That 10 and 14, getting up over 400%, 400 winning percent, that's crucial, man. With, when that team was healthy. This squad this year, to me, I believe was poised to have a better post All-Star break this year than the one last year. That's just me. If Cade was there and what we see Ivy's able to do, what we see Jalen Duren's able to do, what we know Bojan's going to bring, what we knew Sadiq Bey was going to do this. We knew it was going to come to him eventually. Man, oh man, oh man. Yeah, it's Cade, the straw that stirs the drink, and that's what Bojan, told to HoopsHype in this conversation that he had with the organization. So there was a lot there to unpack, man. Was there anything else that kind of caught your attention from that interview?
Yeah, I think that it's so much that you don't really know if Bojan's on the trade block and what he thinks about it. But the fact that they had that conversation, because some of these things are like are generated by that team because they think he's a fit for them, but that this is even a thing and that they're talking about it just kind of acknowledges, yeah, the Pistons are in on this too. And they're looking at stuff and listening to offers, but they don't feel like they have to do anything. And that's the maybe comforting part of it, is that you don't have a GM who has to play hot potato with his assets.
Yeah,
I'm gonna sit here and listen. This isn't what I'm looking for. Okay, whatever. And like you said, maybe when they get toward draft time and they start figuring out, hey, here's a player that we're targeting in that Duran sort of mold, then we can jump at that, but we're not going to lose assets. And it's the same sort of thing when you're thinking about what they did with Jeremy Grant, is they can find and he can target, and you feel comfortable with him, with Troy Weaver, looking at veteran sorts of guys and bringing them in, and they can help the roster. I mean, if you're going to say he missed on Killian, tell me something else that he missed on, like swing and miss, whiffed on. A trade, a draft pick, or whatever. The man knows what he's doing.
Yeah, and honestly, I know we said that we didn't have no fan interaction. I did have one fan interaction with Killian Hayes, man. And it was on this. He just simply asked me this, though. Do you believe that Killian Hayes is a bust? And the word that I used was what you just used. Potentially a miss. We like it's like, we're not going to sit here and be like, oh, no, he was the greatest pick there. Like, obviously, but in hindsight, we could call it a miss, but a bust? That's crazy. That's to me, that's crazy. The man has had one full offseason, and we see him playing at least a backup NBA point guard level. I'm hearing some people, like outside observers, saying that they see an arc for him that's like, Ricky Rubio type. And if that's the case, with better like a Ricky Rubio with better defense, I don't believe that that's a bust there. Obviously, Tyrese Halliburton is going to be the pick or the name that a lot of people are going to associate there. But there are a lot of teams that passed. This wasn't something that was just an easy thing during that draft. There was a lot of players. You remember that draft class? It was real difficult, at least, to pick who's who, what's what. So much so that two of the better players from that draft class fell down in Sadiq Bey and Isaiah Stewart. I know that a lot of us, we were enamored with, LaMelo Ball. We didn't know he was going to go as high as he was going to go. He was hanging out at Somerset all summer, hanging out and training in Detroit with his trainer. We were getting geared up for that. We said, if it's Killian, then like, cool. That's like LaMelo light, which it's kind of looking like a LaMelo light at this point in time. But I don't get the Killian Hayes detractors to this point to see how he's continued to mature. And I'm glad that Bojan specifically mentioned him in the conversation with HoopsHype, along with Jalen Duren and Jaden Ivey, who I'm going to talk about real quick. I'm glad he mentioned him, because his development, it's not just improvement. You know what I mean? Like, I believe Sadiq Bey has improved as the season has gone on. He's doing the same things, but now the three is falling. Killian Hayes has developed this season. He's doing things on a more consistent and natural basis that we haven't seen him do in the past. And that's crucial. I believe that next season, is probably one where Killian Hayes comes in to start the season without having that fall off the cliff that he had coming into the season, where Casey was like, it just looks like a flip. A switch was flipped coming in. We don't know what happened, but we got to get him back going. Now I see him, if he has a bad game or two, or even if he's in the midst of a bad game like the last one, man, he still put up 16 shots, 16 field goal attempts. I like seeing it personally. I was like, hey, we should lead the team in field goal attempts if they let you. Do it. That's what I want to see out of him. Be aggressive. Get to your spots. We talked about this. If he goes 1 of 5, that's it. But it's doing it the way that we want to see him do it. I'm okay with that. But
so let's do this real quick. Let's go through some of that draft. And here's my rule on bust. Bust is you're a top 3, or maybe even as low as top 5. Anything outside the top 3 or the top 5, you can't call a bust, because it's a crapshoot at that point anyway.
And the Pistons fell in that draft.
Okay, so is James Wiseman. We know Anthony Edwards is not a bust, no question. James Wiseman, bust? Jury's still out, probably, right?
Probably.
Jury's still out.
I'm not going to put it out there. Jury's still out.
Patrick Williams.
I like him.
But is he worth that number 4 pick, where you feel like they reached a little bit? A lot of people thought they reached a little bit.
He's not he's not what the reports were when it was coming out. When they're like, Troy will go and trade up for him at second. No. You're right. No.
Isaac Okoro, just a solid guy, just a guy.
Yeah.
And he's the number 5 pick. Onyeka Okongwu with the Hawks. Bust. So this is and he was picked right before Killian. So in all of these cases, do you think people in Chicago are saying Patrick Williams is a bust, or people are saying
hold on, Rob. Hey y'all, gather around. He's teaching right now. All right, go.
So people in Chicago aren't saying that Patrick Williams is a bust. People in Cleveland are saying Isaac Okoro is a bust. Okongwu they might be saying that in Atlanta. I don't have my ear to the ground on that. Might have to talk to Lauren Williams, but maybe.
Shout out Lauren.
So why does Killian get the bust label, and he's the number 7 pick in that? Obi Toppin, they like him in New York. Denny Avdia in with the Wizards, and Jalen Smith is the number 10 pick. So that whole draft is a crapshoot. Maybe the Kings just picked right with Tyrese. Aaron Nesmith, has anybody talked about him in the past? Poku, Josh Green, Precious Achua. We know Tyrese Maxey is Zeke Naji. So that whole first round, that entire first round, save maybe 5 or 6 guys that you hit on. None of those guys are running around like gangbusters, and just look at that top 10.
We're gonna have to redraft it, man. We're gonna have to get Mike. We're gonna have to get Jeff, Sean. We're gonna have to do something, and we're gonna have to come on here and redraft it, because you're right. I never looked at it from that perspective. These names are still out there, and people see. Like you said, I'm not looking at Chicago every night. I'm not looking at some of these other teams. You hear Patrick Williams' name every now and then. You go, oh, you hear Isaac Okoro. Then you look at it, and I'm looking at stuff like, oh no, man. How are people calling Killian a bust? That draft, which I had already admitted earlier, I knew was not one of the ones that are most heralded. But if you redraft it, is Killian going higher?
Killian's not going higher, and is he going very much lower? Not very much lower. There's not
at all.
I don't see 10 people in this draft that I say Desmond Bane was the last pick of the first round.
Desmond Bane. Shooting the mess out the ball.
But I mean, where's this? There were 6 people ahead of Killian and 6 people after that you would have taken. Kyra Lewis, Nesmith, Cole Anthony. Would you have taken Cole Anthony over Killian if you redraft that now? Depends on what you like. Maybe, probably. But it's not a Halliburton is a for sure thing.
Yeah. Yep.
Where is Jalen Smith? Has anybody seen Jalen Smith? That Devin Vassell is that a just complete miss?
Hey,
so that whole draft class is very kind of weird.
What did Troy say though when this just came to mind? Hey, y'all, drink your agua. This is my clear Kool-Aid, right? What did he say when they drafted him? It's a reason why they went out and got 2 more first-round picks. When they drafted him, and go look at the quotes, guys, they said he is a project. I remember it said, look, it's going to take some time for him to learn this game. And I'm going to do an article on that, because I think this conversation was awesome on Killian, because that whole draft class was like, yeah, it was more to investigate if you're going to call a guy a bust. No, I think he still goes in the lottery if you redraft this class. You know what I mean?
He still goes in the lottery, but then bust is a top 3 or a top 5 pick that you just knew, like, that's that dude, and then he just doesn't show up and to become that. Yeah. They didn't say Killian was going to change the game and he was going to come over here and be a Luka type player. And it's so hard for international players to translate their skills to translate to the NBA anyway, if he hadn't played. And we knew what Luka was. Killian was just an 18-year-old kid. So, are we worried about Killian? We've been worried about Killian since the draft. Absolutely. But it's like you when you drop your kids off at school in the morning, you worry about them in a kind of passive way, but you put them in the hands of their teachers and their principals, your Dwayne Casey's and your Weavers, and know that they're in good hands, and
Yeah.
you kind of see what happens after that. And that's the best that you can do. But you don't, when your kids don't pass a class, you don't say that they're a bust. You try to figure out what you can do.
Boy, that'd be so trash. You got a B?
You're trash. You're shooting 30% from three, kid.
Buffoonery.
Trash.
Buffoonery. Word to Tayshaun.
Yeah. So that's the Killian conversation I want to have with people, is just look back at that draft, and there are probably 5 kind of all-star-ish players, and we've seen it with Anthony Edwards, with LaMelo.
Yeah.
Tyrese Halliburton's probably going to get to that level, but there are not a ton of,
if you ask Wally Zerbiak.
Well, yeah. Let's end it there on Wally Zerbiak, but that's the conversation, and we can get back into it, and we can redraft that at whatever point. But you're not saying Killian isn't a first-round pick in that draft, and you're probably taking Sadiq a little bit higher, and you're probably taking Isaiah a little bit higher. And so it's kind of what we said, is that if you redraft that, it's kind of Troy got the people that he wanted. It may not have been in the order that he wanted, but you end up with the same sort of thing anyway. And what did they need in that draft? Point guard.
Yeah.
I mean,
and my thing is this: if he was drafted here, some parts to be a player that they knew that it's going to have to learn this game, they're going to have to develop him and whatnot. That type of a pick to me means you want to strike value, whether you wind up trading him and getting value back, or whether you find a place for him on this roster as a foundational piece for a long time. We've seen some championship teams and playoff contending teams that have been good for a long time, have those guys on the roster. And I do believe that Killian fits that mold. And based on how he's played, based on his relationship with the organization, based on the fact that this is really his American home now. I know he grew up, in Lakeland, but that's still like Detroit South. You know what I mean? He had this kind of pedigree already in him. I can see this being the perfect situation to where, maybe he shutters free agency market. Maybe he says, you know what, this is home. Yeah, I'll give maybe not the discount, but fair market value to Detroit to continue on in my role as a backup point guard, knowing that if anytime they need me to start, knowing that the minutes I'm going to get are like 25 to 30 minutes a night. Like this is with an organization that believes in me, knows me, is helping me to develop my game. I was sitting here wondering, like, are there going to be any casualties of the restoration process? Obviously, there's going to be at some point in time. I don't even know if I really want to talk about that, but I believe that Killian is one of those players that fits kind of the opposite end of a casualty. I think that he's just this guy who's proven enough now that he can be a part of this thing. He's proven enough that he can be a coach on the court. Now, does he have to get more consistent? Do people want to see him get more consistent scoring the ball? Sure. But that's where I said, like, maybe this kind of starts to set him into a value that's beneficial to the team and to Killian long term, as it relates to, financially, as well as his role with the squad for a long time.
And here's if he is a casualty of it, it depends on what that next contract looks like. That if it could be a filler at some point. So look for it to be a very mid-level-ish type of deal. That he won't make a ton, but if they really get close, if he's a casualty, I think it's going to be that he's the salary filler in there to try to make something bigger work if they end up doing that.
Yep. And the one thing that's comfortable with Troy Weaver is to know that whoever whatever he's doing right now up to this point, it's been something that's continued to move this team forward as it relates to his roadmap. And that's what you want. None of us, we all believe we think we can do a job or we can see things. But realistically, this is about the fact that he came in with a vision in mind. And when you hire a GM, you really want to see their vision to fruition. Whether that fails or whether that succeeds, let them do what they do. And when they show proficiency and when they show that they can actually hit the metrics along the way,
Yep.
These are the things that make me more comfortable about what Troy Weaver's doing, whether we're winning or losing or not. Because I see some comments where people are like, oh man, this season is trash. Oh man, why won't y'all rip them? Oh man, this roster is this, that, and the other. And it's like, I think we're kind of saying to some degrees the spirit of the same thing, but we're looking at it differently. If the roster is in transition, then the roster is not trash. But I can understand how a fan who might not be as clued in, or somebody who believes that there should be more squeezed out of this thing, could be like, oh, this is not meeting the satisfactory mark, But in
Yep.
reality, the Pistons, man, if K were healthy, would have had 6 Rising Stars participants over the last 2 years. They have to settle for 5, Rod. Just 5, and and this year, marks the first time that they've had 2 rookies at the Rising Stars, the Jordan, the All-Star weekend for the Rising Stars game. Is that development, or is that what they were supposed to be doing? Because, Jaden Ivey wasn't supposed to be a 15, almost 5-5 player. He wasn't supposed to have a mid-range. He wasn't supposed to shoot over 30% from 3. He wasn't supposed to be able to play make. Jalen Duren was supposed to be in the G League. The Cade Cunningham was not supposed to have the 26-6 this year. Sadiq and Isaiah Stewart, they're not supposed to be the serviceable players that they are. They weren't supposed to make Rising Stars last year, I guess. What does this speak to you as it relates to player development, which is something Bojan Bogdanovic was really, really, really big on in that HoopsHype article?
Yeah, I think it just says it's the development, and now it's just putting all the stuff together and making it work. That you've got the right players, you made the right selections, but it's hard to tell when you're trying to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich of this roster, and you don't have any peanut butter. So you got bread, you got jelly, but you just don't have it. So the main ingredient of this the sandwich is going to be a little bit different than what you thought it is. And that's with Cade. Okay, well, we can do some different stuff with this, but you don't have any peanut butter. It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because it's not going to be what you thought it was at the beginning. So that's this roster, that's this season, and you just got to play through it. You got to take what you can, your positives from it, and that's it. Yeah, and I'll finish on that because that's we'll be called homers and we don't want to say anything negative. That's just what the season is, and we said it at the beginning. They got to be healthy, and if they're not, then okay, whatever.
Yep. Yeah, there were several things like they have to be healthy. I've consistently, and you've consistently, and other people on these platforms, and Mike as well, Mike Curtis, shout out to him, Pistons beat writer for the Detroit News, that Cade is really the guy that's going to be the engine here. And this is why it was important to hit on people like Ivy and Duren, because I've consistently stated, Ivy cannot be a Robin. And I'm almost looking at Duren like, he might not be just a junior sidekick, like a Titan, in the world of DC. These guys have to be, at least Ivy has to be a Superman, got to be a frontline Justice League member next to Cade Cunningham, because we see if his impact, he has a great impact on the game. The other stars say he has a great impact on the game. The Pistons clutch points in fourth quarter scoring, trash, bro. last in the league. I just saw the stat. Last year it wasn't like that. And who was one of the top clutch players in a league and as a player? Just period. Now, as a rookie, Cade Cunningham. Yep. It's huge, man. And that's where I believe, most importantly, where those stars like DeMar DeRozan and LeBron James, Kevin Durant, these guys that were just absolutely talking about it, it was because, what do you remember about those games? Cade was going toe-to-toe with those guys at the end of games and won some of those games. That was during that 10-14 stretch. These guys were like, oh, yeah, no, Cade is that deal. He's going to be special. He's going to be this. He's going to be that, man. So it's like, yeah, these things matter. And when he's out, I thought we said this earlier in the season too, it provided the Pistons with a unique opportunity to really, really, really hunker down and focus on the restoration one more year. They wanted to contend. They wanted to compete. They wanted to contend for the play-in tournament. These are the things that they had in mind. Bojan talked about that as well. But was that really the right thing to do? If you're in a process, we all from the outside knew As soon as Philly went on a losing streak, dang, boy, they about to get this number 1 pick, man. And they really going for the tank. Well, it's like we all processed and understood. The Pistons came out and announced, we are in a rebuild, and it's one of those ones that you just got to go along for the ride. It's a restoration. We will, in about 3 to 5 years, you will begin to understand and see in this and that. This is that kind of that 3-year mark. And it was on the balance. Are we going to be kind of this way or that way? If Cade's there, you're going to be competing for the play-in. If he's not, oh, shucks. Oh, man, we got a pick in this probably historically great draft. Oh, man. Man, we might fall out of the top 2 and have to pick like Brandon Miller or something. Man,
yeah.
I don't know, man. Strategically, if I'm Troy Weaver, I'm pushing like remember those old B-Dubs commercials, man, where they would push the button. I'm pushing the button. I'm sorry, Cade. I think you need surgery. Like Marvin, we're gonna reevaluate you and then reevaluate you and then reevaluate you. Like, just
get because this ain't it. This is not it.
This isn't it.
Yeah, I gotta run.
Let's rock. Let's rock, man. Hey, this was fun, man. This was fun. But look, my name is Brandon Dent, aka Detroit Kool-Aid, and wherever Jeff, Mr. Everything is, shout out to him as well. I'm sure that his entourage is flying him around and doing everything for the day that he needs. But we're gonna try and get this content a little bit later. If they book me on the schedule, man, I'm hoping they do. But we're going to get this drum roll going for the Woodward Pistons podcast. Hey, yo, shout out to the legend, Detroit News, Rod Beard. Bro, I appreciate you as always.
Anytime, bro. Anytime.
All right, till next time, y'all. Peace.
Peace.